I asked him like one more question, like, well, why wouldn't you do it? He's like, Ryan, you're just obsessed. And I was like, obsessed with what? He's like, you're just obsessed. You're like, you need to get some help. This is before the funeral mass of the grandfather he decided not to confirm. My grandfather had just died. Or actually, no, my grandfather didn't die. He was in the process of dying. And so what I did is I contacted the priest and I asked him, hey, can you do a confirmation for him? Because 2 months ago he had said he wanted to become Catholic, and I had called last month about establishing RCIA courses at this priest's parish to get him rolling. And then all of a sudden his body is breaking down, and he's gonna die in a few days. And so I'm like, hey, like, he needs to get confirmed because he said all the right things. And the priest was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. And I was like, why? And he's like, well, your grandmother didn't say anything. And I said, I mean, I'm telling you as a witness, like he explicitly told me this with my grandmother present. Did you? And I went into like, did you ask my grandmother? Did you have these conversations? And he didn't. He didn't double check. My grandfather is died a Methodist, and even though he raised Catholics and attended Catholicism, Catholic Mass for like the last 25 years, like it was. Yeah. And so, but not only did it happen there, I went to the priest at the hospital, who happened to be a Jesuit, and explained the situation to him. And he told me he didn't tell me the exact same thing, but said he couldn't do it. And I said, no. Like, canon law totally gives you the okay to do this. Like, and the U.S. bishops have been promoting that confirmation be done on deathbed. Like, this is something that has been known that they're promoting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like at least internally, like this is not something that is like hidden. And they're like, no, like whatever the pastor said. I was like, I am telling you as a witness, like I do not understand. Like, I do not understand this. Like, and then I tried one other priest, but like none of them wanted to do it. And the Jesuit did give him general absolution. But I honestly don't know how that works with Protestants. Even though my grandfather has said he wanted to, but this whole time I'm talking to Father Eric, my current my pastor, and the whole situation was just like heart-wrenching, like because I'm trying to get my grandfather.
You're trying to respect your grandfather's wishes.
Yeah,
is what you're doing,
and he is not conscious. He ends up dying before he wakes up again. Like, this is a very basic thing, and in terms of from their end, like they know it's a life and death situation, that he's probably going to pass in the next few days. There's a witness to him stating such a thing. Do it. Same situation. My grandfather has now died. We're about to do his funeral mass. And I go to the priest there, and it was the same priest that I had asked about getting him confirmed, or one of them, and he had said no. I asked him, hey, this is going to be a religiously mixed attendance. So you're going to have people who are Protestant, who are not practicing Catholics, or Catholics. So I asked him, hey, please explain just before the Eucharist, that you should be disposed well before receiving communion. Like, you're supposed to be well disposed. And he goes, well, how dare you judge? And I was like, wait a minute, what? What do you mean? And he's like, well, you're judging. And I was like, no, I'm not. Like, they've come out and told me this. What I know for a fact, like, family members haven't been like decades in a mass. Like, I'm not making this up. Like, and he's like, well, that's still judging. And I was like, yeah, you can't just state that as a like statement for them to do it. He's like, no, that's judging. And I was like, you're the first priest to ever say such a thing, because every other priest I've asked have been like, oh yeah, no problem. Because it is no problem. It's their job to do that if they know that there's a large amount of people who are not Catholic who might come up. I've heard it, dozens of times before then at cathedrals and at different parishes across 3 dioceses. So it was like a ridiculous statement that he was telling me. And, I asked him like one more question, like, well, why wouldn't you do it? He's like, Ryan, you're just obsessed. And I was like, obsessed with what? He's like, you're just obsessed. You're like, you need to get some help. This is before the funeral mass of the grandfather he decided not to confirm. So he says that. I then go to mass. I am the first reader. And so I read and, I come out and I'm sorry, the first lector. I read and then he does the homily and all this, whatever. And I go to receive communion. So we're at communion. And I go up and I kneel and I stick my tongue out, to receive. And he looks at me and he tells me to get up. And I was like, I will not get up. And he's like, get up. And I was like, I will not get up. And, the Vatican states that, you can't deny me because I'm receiving this way. And so he kind of like looks around and then like gives me the Eucharist. And then my family followed after. But I was obviously one of the first people to receive the Eucharist because I was a lector and part of the I guess the core family in the he's my grandfather type of situation. So it was pretty terrible, and it was pretty I am going to say this: if I did not have someone like Father Eric to talk to, and I know this is putting a lot of weight on him, and I'm calling him out, but in a positive way and not the other priest. I almost said his name there. but the Father Eric was amazing. Like, he was actually pastoral in that circumstance, because I would talk to him about this and he, told me what to do. He suggested the avenues to go with. But basically, like, if I didn't have him there as my pastor, I would have had a very serious problem from a faith standpoint, because like it seemed like every step was just absolute torture. Like every step, even though like nothing physically was, well, I guess being told you were crazy in that circumstance is kind of weird, especially when he was yelling it, but which I don't know why he was yelling it, but that's whatever. He seemed to be more into theatrics, which kind of goes back into what you initially said about how some priests are kind of more they like going to theatrics and as opposed to being a priest of substance, which I would argue that this priest was such a priest. But the situation sucked, and had I not been where I was and had the priest that I could talk to there, I would have seriously questioned my faith. And I have 4 kids, so that's 4 kids that aren't going to be raised up in the faith had that happened.
Well, and it's about taking the faith seriously. And to me, the message that it gives off when you're saying, well, they don't really need the sacraments, we don't really need to tell them the truths of the faith, or that's judgment, or, and so on and so forth. To me, the impression that gives me as a layperson is you don't actually take this seriously. Because if you weren't gonna confirm that guy, you needed to have a serious discussion about that, not, and you need to explore every avenue possible and make the understanding completely clear as to why that's not happening, if there's any reason to do that at all. I mean, he might have had a good reason, but the way that these people are coming off to you is they either can't be bothered or they don't care.